The first 3 seconds. Not an explosion, not a scream, just one sensation that strikes softly yet pierces. Something has changed, and not everyone is ready to accept it. If from the very beginning you felt disturbed, startled, angry, or instead unable to look away, that is no coincidence. It is a psychological effect of a presence that knows when to remain silent and when to shatter expectations without a sound. Hi, Taehyung lovers around the world. Welcome back to the Taehyung Lovers channel. Stop scrolling. Don't go anywhere, because what we're going to discuss today is not just visuals, not just fashion, and clearly not ordinary content. January 2026. Kim Taehyung does not appear with noise. He appears as a living visual narrative. Every frame feels intentional, yet still breathes naturally. And from the very first second, one question begins to unsettle many people. Why does silence feel louder than a scream? In this video, we will go deeper, not only looking at what he wears, but uncovering the meaning behind it, not only enjoying the aesthetics, but feeling the tension, freedom, and depth of character that a public figure rarely possesses. This video may make you uncomfortable, because when someone appears too honest, too calm, and too confident in themselves, there will always be those who feel disturbed. Why Kim Taehyung's silence feels provocative and unsettling. The meaning behind the modern masculine couture aesthetic he brings. Why his style is called effortless avant-garde and almost impossible to imitate. Body language, movement, and visual psychology that make people unable to look away. The most human side of Kim Taehyung that builds an emotional bond with ARMY, and one sentence about his future that is called a marker of the times. Before we go any further, make sure you like this video if you are ready to hear an honest and different point of view. Write your comment whether you agree or not. Whether you are amazed or disturbed, we want to read it. And don't forget to subscribe to the Taehyung Lovers channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss every in-depth discussion about Kim Taehyung that you won't find anywhere else. Thank you to everyone who remains loyal to the Taehyung Lovers channel. Thank you for every positive comment, healthy discussion, and endless support. You are not just viewers, you are part of this narrative. Now, lift your head, focus your attention, because what we are about to discuss next is not about who Kim Taehyung is, but why the world can no longer ignore him. January 2026. Kim Taehyung appears like a living visual narrative. Every frame feels intentional, yet still breathes naturally. In the first portrait, he stands facing the camera with his hands clasped in front of his face, his gaze calm yet intense. A dark tone top with a clean cut gives a contemplative, almost spiritual impression. There is a silence that speaks, making anyone who sees it pause for a moment. This is not a pose. This is a statement. And in a noisy era, this kind of silence feels provocative. Then the atmosphere changes completely. Kim Taehyung wears a black sheer textured top, layered with a dark vest and futuristic glasses. His silhouette is slim, modern, bold, a high-fashion style that blends subtle sensuality with strength of character. This is the aesthetic often described by fashion observers as modern masculine couture. Experimental, artistic, and refusing compromise. Clothing like this is not merely expensive. It is exclusive because of vision. It is usually born from world-class fashion houses, produced in limited quantities, and sold in boutiques that do not need large signboards because their reputation already speaks for itself. But what strikes hardest is not that luxury. It is precisely the quietest moment. He stands in a gallery, gazing at a black and white portrait of himself. A dark jacket, hat, and mask create distance, as if he is in dialogue with another version of himself. This scene almost makes viewers uncomfortable because it forces us to ask, who is observing whom? Here is where the reason people fall in love with Kim Taehyung becomes clear, not merely because of his face or clothes, but because of depth. His style is often called effortless avant-garde, simple on the surface, complex in feeling. He does not merely wear clothes. He gives them meaning. And a charm like this cannot be learned overnight. Go deeper, and the atmosphere shifts into something that feels familiar yet foreign. The essence of late 1990s country music campaigns comes alive again, not as cheap nostalgia, but as an attitude. There is freedom without force, simplicity that is filled with confidence. This is not about cowboys or acoustic guitars. This is about visual honesty. And within that atmosphere, Kim Taehyung appears without excessive effort, as if the world itself chooses to move according to his rhythm. Pay attention to how he moves. Light, relaxed, almost seemingly unintentional. But that is where the trap lies. Every movement looks natural, yet precise, as if his body understands space before the mind has time to give instructions. His body proportions create a visual balance that is hard to ignore. Firm shoulders, calm posture, steps that speak louder than exaggerated gestures. Many try to imitate this style. Almost none succeed, because this is not about technique, but self-awareness. What makes him even more charismatic is not just the style, but the silence behind it. There's an aura of nothing to prove. Like late 1990s country icons, Taehyung brings honesty into his appearance, raw, warm, and deeply human. He does not imitate the past. He absorbs its spirit, then revives it with his own identity. And at this point, some people begin to feel disturbed, because he shows that masculinity does not have to be loud, and strength does not always come from domination. That is where his charm grows slowly, allowing those who look to wonder, is this merely an appearance, or a silent statement about freedom, masculinity, and art that needs no explanation? If that question feels unsettling, perhaps it is because the answer is too honest. But Kim Taehyung does not stop at visuals. He descends into the simplest space, human conversation. If you don't mind and have a time, you should take a vacation to Vietnam someday. The sentence sounds ordinary, almost insignificant. But when spoken in the middle of a brief encounter between Kim Taehyung and a fan, it transforms into a moment that feels warm and hard to forget. There is no excessive distance, no wall between idol and admirer, just a light conversation flowing naturally, and precisely because of that, it feels rare. Kim Taehyung listens with full attention, his eyes shining with genuine curiosity. "Oh, really?" he asks, as if every recommendation is a personal invitation. When the name Hanoi is mentioned, he responds with curiosity, then smiles slightly upon learning that the fan lives in Ho Chi Minh City. "Oh, is that so?" 2 words, no more, yet enough to make someone feel truly seen. These are the details often overlooked by those who only measure popularity in numbers. He is always friendly. He does not refuse photos. He does not stand above, but alongside. A few seconds of conversation are enough to leave a deep impression. And from the perspective of communication psychology, it is these small moments that build the strongest emotional bonds, not grand campaigns, not empty slogans. Kim Taehyung's closeness with ARMY is born from the consistency of this kind of human attitude, not from massive spotlights, but from small habits repeated without force. And perhaps that is where his most dangerous charm lies. He makes every fan feel meaningful, even if only for a moment. That is not a cheap strategy. That is character. Then comes a sentence that changes perspective. If someone asks about Kim Taehyung's future, tell them to lift their head and look at the V exhibition. This statement from Fast Paper magazine does not sound like ordinary praise. It sounds like a marker of the times, an invitation to stop looking down at routine and dare to look at the vision being built before our eyes. This is the work of an artist, not a figure who merely performs an industrial function, but an individual who transcends utility and transforms expression into language. In his hands, body, space, and time negotiate to give birth to a new world, a world that can be felt even before it is fully understood. He does not merely create, he communicates, presenting a silent dialogue between the work and its audience. As an expressive creator and a complete communicator, Kim Taehyung composes meaning without needing many words. Every detail is a signal. Every silence contains a message. His work stands as a mirror of the future, bold, reflective, and human. And perhaps that is why the V exhibition feels like an answer, not about what is coming, but about how we choose to see it. Now the question is no longer, who is Kim Taehyung? But rather, why does his presence make some people amazed, others uncomfortable, and almost everyone unable to ignore him? If you feel provoked, angry, or instead compelled to defend him, write it in the comments, because that emotional reaction itself is proof that this is not merely a story about an idol. This is a narrative about art, identity, and the courage to remain silent in a world that demands everyone to scream.